The annual Homawu festival was a time of joy and celebration in the coastal villages of Ghana. Drums echoed across the land. The aroma of freshly prepared kenki and fish wafted through the air, and children adorned in colorful cloths ran along the sandy paths. It was a time for families to come together, honor their ancestors, and give thanks for the harvest. For Adoma, however, this year's festival would be one she would never forget. Not for its joyous spirit, but for the pain that would change the course of her life. Adoma had always been a devoted wife and sister. Married to Kwesi, a fisherman known for his charm and warm smile, she believed her life was stable and happy. Her younger sister, Efua, often visited their home, bringing laughter and companionship. The two sisters shared a bond that had grown strong over the years, strengthened by the struggles they faced together in childhood. Adoma had always felt proud to care for Efua, stepping into a motherly role after their parents passed away. But what she discovered during the festival shattered that bond into pieces she wasn't sure could ever be mended. It began with a fleeting suspicion. Adoma had noticed that Kwesi and Efua had grown unusually close. It wasn't uncommon for family members to share warm camaraderie, but something about their lingering glances and secretive smiles felt out of place. Adoma tried to push the thoughts aside, chastising herself for being paranoid. She reminded herself of the values their family had upheld for generations: trust, loyalty, and the sacredness of familial bonds. Yet, as the festival drew closer and Efua began finding excuses to stay longer in their home, the whispers of doubt in Adoma's mind grew louder. During the festival's second evening, as the village gathered by the fire to sing and dance, Adoma slipped away to their home, seeking a moment of quiet. She had been feeling restless all evening, unable to join in the festivities wholeheartedly. As she entered her home, the muffled voices she heard stopped her in her tracks. Quietly, she followed the sound to its source and opened the door just enough to see. There, in the dim light of her bedroom, stood Kwesi and Efua. The betrayal she had feared was laid bare before her. The scene froze Adoma in place. Her heart raced, her chest tightened, and tears blurred her vision. She didn't confront them immediately. Instead, she quietly backed away, her mind reeling. The betrayal wasn't just from Kwesi, the man she had trusted with her life. It was from Efua, her sister, her blood, the one person she thought would never hurt her. The weight of their actions pressed down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. Adoma spent the night sitting beneath the ancient baobab tree at the edge of the village. The tree was sacred, its roots said to hold the wisdom of generations past. As the moonlight filtered through its branches, she wept silently, feeling the depth of her pain. The betrayal wasn't just a wound. It was a fire, consuming her trust and faith in the people she loved most. The next morning, Adoma made a decision. She wouldn't let the anger and pain consume her entirely. Instead, she would turn to the wisdom of her ancestors and the traditions that had guided her people for centuries. In her culture, family disputes were often resolved in sacred spaces, where the spirits of the ancestors were called upon to guide those involved. Adoma decided to invoke this tradition and call Efua to the sacred grove, a secluded place where conflicts were settled with honesty and humility. When Adoma reached the grove, she knelt before the altar of stones and whispered a prayer. She asked the spirits of her ancestors for strength, for clarity, and for the wisdom to handle the betrayal without dishonoring herself or her family. The grove was silent, except for the rustling of leaves and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. It was here, in this hallowed space, that she felt a sense of calm begin to wash over her. Efua arrived shortly after, having received Adoma's message. She looked nervous, her usual confidence replaced with uncertainty. Adoma spoke with a steady heart, recounting what she had seen and expressing the depth of her hurt. She didn't lash out or raise her voice. Instead, she reminded Efua of the bond they had shared and the values their family had instilled in them. She spoke of trust and loyalty, of how betrayal fractured not just relationships but the very spirit of a person. As Adoma's words flowed, Efua began to cry, the weight of her guilt overwhelming her. Efua admitted to the affair, her voice trembling as she spoke. She explained that she had been drawn to Kwesi's attention and had allowed her emotions to cloud her judgment. But as she stood there in the sacred grove, faced with her sister's pain and the gravity of her actions, she realized the depth of her betrayal. Efua fell to her knees, asking for forgiveness. Adoma listened, her heart torn between anger and the love she still felt for her sister. In their culture, forgiveness was not a simple act. It was a process that required both parties to engage in rituals of reconciliation. Adoma decided to follow this path. She placed a bowl of water between them, a symbol of purity and renewal, and recited an ancestral prayer. Efua washed her hands in the bowl, symbolizing her acknowledgement of wrongdoing and her commitment to change. Adoma then did the same, signifying her willingness to let go of some of her pain and begin the journey toward healing. Kwesi, too, was not exempt from this process. Adoma confronted him in the days that followed, bringing him to the grove to account for his actions. He expressed remorse, though Adoma's trust in him was deeply shattered. She told him that rebuilding trust would take time, effort, and a willingness to adhere to the values they had once shared. Kwesi agreed, knowing the road ahead would not be easy. For weeks, Adoma struggled to come to terms with what had happened. Healing was not linear, and there were days when the pain felt as raw as it had on the first night. But she found solace in her work, in her community, and in the wisdom of the ancestors. She began attending storytelling sessions with the village elder, who shared tales of resilience and forgiveness passed down through generations. These stories reminded her that pain, though deeply personal, was a shared human experience, and that others had found ways to heal even in the face of profound betrayal. Over time, Adoma's heart began to mend. She found strength in her own resilience and pride in the fact that she had chosen a path of dignity rather than one of vengeance. Efua worked tirelessly to regain her sister's trust, helping her with household tasks and accompanying her to the market. Though their relationship would never be the same, it began to take on a new shape, one forged through accountability and a shared desire to honor their family's legacy. Kwesi's journey toward redemption was more complicated. Adoma set clear boundaries, emphasizing that trust was not something to be given freely, but something to be earned through consistent actions. While their marriage remained fragile, it was not beyond repair. Kwesi's efforts to change, though slow, showed a glimmer of hope. The next year, as the Homowo festival approached once more, Adoma felt a sense of renewal. The scars of betrayal had not disappeared, but they had become a part of her story, a testament to her strength and ability to overcome. She joined the village in the celebrations, dancing to the rhythm of the drums and feeling the warmth of her community around her. Still, Adoma's journey was far from over. She had learned that healing wasn't about erasing the past, but about integrating it into her life in a way that allowed her to grow. She took up new responsibilities in the village, mentoring younger women and sharing her story with those who sought her advice. Adoma became a source of wisdom, her experience a beacon of hope for others navigating their own struggles. Efua, too, grew from the experience. She worked to rebuild her life, acknowledging her mistakes and striving to become a better person. She became active in the village, helping organize events and supporting other women in need. Though her relationship with Adoma remained cautious, it was underscored by a shared commitment to healing and mutual respect. As for Kwesi, he continued to work hard to regain Adoma's trust. He sought counsel from the elders, participated in communal rituals of accountability, and demonstrated his commitment through actions rather than words. Over time, his efforts began to bear fruit, though Adoma remained vigilant, ensuring that the lessons learned were not forgotten. The Homowo festival that year marked a turning point for Adoma. As she danced around the fire, surrounded by her community, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. The pain she had endured had not defeated her. Instead, it had forged her into someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She realized that life was a series of trials, each one an opportunity to grow and learn. The lesson Adoma learned through her journey was clear. Pain and betrayal are inevitable parts of life, but how one chooses to respond defines their character. By leaning on her culture's traditions and the wisdom of her ancestors, she found a path to healing that honored her dignity and values. Forgiveness, she realized, was not about excusing the wrongs done to her, but about freeing herself from the burden of anger and pain. It was an act of courage, a flame that rekindled her spirit and allowed her to move forward with strength and grace. This is the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment your opinion on this story. See you next time.